Good evening, YouTube, and welcome back to Paisano's Music and Vinyl Talk. I am your host, as always, Paisano. Tonight, we're going to talk about one of the biggest acts of the 1970s, and they had their share of success in the 80s as well. A group called Fleetwood Mac. Now, Fleetwood Mac was a band like Pink Floyd that evolved in the sense that they started out in the late 60s as a blues band and a rock band, blues rock band. They could do the blues real well, they could do rock real well, and it was led by a guy named Peter Green, and he was a genius, really, and he had a great band behind him, most notably Jeremy Spencer, who spent a couple years with them and then took off and joined a commune of some sort. And he had Mick Fleetwood on drums and John McVie on bass. And Danny Kerwin, a second guitarist that was very talented in his own right, complemented Peter Green very well. And the name Fleetwood Mac was drawn from Mick Fleetwood and John McVie, combination of their names. Peter Green didn't really like the idea of being a rock star. They were getting bigger and bigger. And he kind of bowed out in 1970 and 1971, just, left the business. And they were just about to hit America. They were at least, maybe a week or so away from playing their first gig in the United States, and they needed help. And John McVie suggested that his wife, she was known as Christine Perfect with her previous bands, but I think they were married when she joined Fleetwood Mac, and she came in with a very different approach, gave the band a completely different sound, a female voice, piano, organ, she played, and it added a whole new dimension to the band. And they started to go a slightly different direction. They enlisted several guitar players along the way. Bob Welch was with them for a while. And when Bob Welch left, they needed a guitar player. And Mick Fleetwood had heard of Lindsey Buckingham. He had formed a group around him and his girlfriend Stevie Nicks. The Buckingham Nicks album was out at that time, 1974 or so. And he got the job. But he said, if you're going to take me, it's a package deal. You got to take my girlfriend, too. And they were like, okay, but if she's not any good, she's out. And she turned out to be very good. She turned out to be one of the most popular voices of the 70s, 80s, and early 90s, and that's Stevie Nicks. And what a band they became. They became a force, an absolute force in the mid to late 70s, cranking out terrific albums. And it brings us to this one, Fleetwood Mac Live. It came out in 1980. It was recorded during the Tusk tour. Tusk was released in 1979. It was to be their probably third number one album in a row, second or third. They were definitely on a roll at this point, and they did a world tour. And I didn't even know this album existed, to be honest with you, till I found it in Cheap Thrills Records in Dedham, Massachusetts. And I picked it up and I said to Rob, I didn't even know they made a live album. He goes, oh yeah, it's real good. Of course he's going to say this, he's not going to tell me it's terrible because I wouldn't have bought it. But it says on it, Fleetwood Mac Live, 1980, first press, 2 LPs, $14.99 it has written on it. It was a well-spent $14.99. I had recorded it at the time when I bought it, probably about 2 or 3 years ago. And when I recorded it, I don't think I listened to it the whole way through because there's some songs on here that I'm not that familiar with. I mean, I know all the hits, and they had plenty of hits, let me tell you. But I listened to it from start to finish, as I always do before I do a review, and discuss these with you guys. And it was a very enjoyable listen. And I got to hear some of the songs I'm not that familiar with, and I don't think there was really a bad one in the bunch. There's a great group of musicians here. These guys. It's Lindsey Buckingham on guitar and vocals, Stevie Nicks on vocals, Christine McVie piano, organ and vocals, John McVie on bass, and Mick Fleetwood on drums. Together they were the most successful and probably most well known, at least worldwide, version of Fleetwood Mac, and they cranked out some great albums and some great songs. Let's go over the track listing. It opens up with Monday Morning, Say You Love Me, Dreams, Oh Well, which was a leftover from the Peter Green days. They got Over and Over, Sarah, Not That Funny, Never Going Back Again, Landslide, Fireflies, Over My Head, Rhiannon, Don't Let Me Down Again, One More Night, Go Your Own Way, Don't Stop, I'm So Afraid, and finishes with The Farmer's Daughter. And this did pretty well in the charts. It got to number 14 on the Billboard 200 back in 1980. And this was really recorded all over the place, if I can get the album out. One of the sleeves in here is all the dates from the world tour, and it was a world tour. Ay, ay, ay. Gives the venue and how many, the capacity of the arena or the auditorium or the stadium that they played. Stadium shows weren't that popular back then. It was mainly, your hockey rinks and your auditoriums and your festival halls over in Asia, as they called them. But it started, that's 1979 right there, into 1980. And then on the back, it finishes the 1980 run. But they started off in Idaho, did a lot of the West, Colorado. Then they came up to the east, Uniondale, New York, Boston, Rochester, New York. Then our big West Coast swing in December of 1979, LA, San Francisco. And then over to the Far East, Tokyo, Japan, Sapporo, Japan, Gifu, Japan, Kyoto, Japan, I don't know if I'm pronouncing those right, Yokohama, Japan, Sendai, Japan, Osaka, Japan. Played a lot of places just in Japan alone, but those weren't huge venues. Osaka, the festival hall, held 2,800. They played that 2 nights in a row. And Yokohama, the Kenman Hall, 2,234. Sapporo had the Susquehannock, I know I'm not pronouncing that right, 2,300. And 3 nights at the Budokan in Tokyo, just a little over 10,000. So these are not huge places. Then off to Australia, Melbourne, Brisbane, festival halls there, small venues, 5,000, 3,500. Sydney, Australia, then a couple dates in New Zealand, in Wellington and Auckland. Those were big shows. 30,000 apiece at the Athletic Park in Wellington, New Zealand, and 30,000 at the Weston Springs in Auckland, New Zealand. Then a few dates in Hawaii. I mean, come on, you're out there. Why not? 7,500, 3 nights in a row at the Neil Blasdell Center. Honolulu, Hawaii. Then back to the U.S., just all over the place. The Midwest, then over to England. I should say Europe. Many dates in England at the Wembley Arena. Then back to Florida. Florida, Alabama, Texas, Oklahoma, New Mexico, Missouri. Finished up at the Hollywood Bowl in Los Angeles, California in September of 1980. Yep, quite a tour. They must have been exhausted after this one, let me tell you. That was no joke. And the other record is all the details, the produced by, the personnel listing, and where these songs were recorded. They took them from everywhere. Tokyo, Wichita, Kansas, Paris, St. Louis, Oklahoma City, St. Louis, Cleveland, Tucson, London, Santa Monica, Kansas City, Passaic, New Jersey, Santa Monica, California, Cleveland. Yeah, they took a little bit from a lot of places. But like I said, a very good listen. And I'm happy I bought it. I don't own Fleetwood Mac really. Not too much. I have some of the old stuff, the Peter Green stuff on the BBC. But as a general rule, I don't think I own any other Fleetwood Mac, to be honest with you. I'm certainly not their biggest fan, or I wouldn't even... Yeah, I do have always enjoyed their music, especially the 70s stuff. And I enjoyed the history of the band. I respect the history. And here's some shots of the group as they were in 1980. It's Mick Fleetwood, Christine McVie, John McVie, top of his head's cut off, Stevie Nicks, and Lindsey Buckingham. Some shots of them on stage. And out of all of them, Christine McVie was probably the best musician. Lindsey Buckingham was a fantastic guitarist. Christine McVie could sing like an angel, and she was tremendous on those keys, those keyboards, whether it was organ, electric piano, or piano. Let me tell you, girl could play. She died recently, and it was a real loss to the popular music world and the music world in general. She was a class act and a great musician. Alrighty, I want to thank you guys for tuning in. If you're enjoying our discussions here, please like and, more importantly, subscribe. What will Paisano dig out of the crates next week? Tune in, find out. Good night, and thank you, YouTube.